Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and today let's talk about my absolute favorite books that I read in 2025. All right friends, here are the 10 books that I was obsessed with this year. We'll go through them in rapid fire. Some are a little bit categorized, but let's start off with one of my unexpected surprise favorite books of the year. This is A Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong. This essentially is about a girl named Tao who is a immigrant fortune teller traveling around with her cart and essentially going to each village that she goes to, and she does what she calls small fortunes. Low stakes, low priority, and essentially along her travels ends up meeting, I'm trying to remember, a reformed thief and an ex-mercenary who are trying to help them find the ex-mercenary's lost son, or no, lost daughter. So they go on a journey together. They meet up with a baker who ends up making these beautiful treats. I think they end up being fortune cookies, but like they kind of don't say it, but it's basically a fortune cookie because she puts her fortunes in it. It's really, really cute. And yeah, I just ended up enjoying this more than I thought that it would. I do think it ended up being something where I'm excited to continue in the series because I think it's one of those cozy mystery fantasies where it's definitely a slow build. The world is very cozy. There's really low stakes in it. But yeah, other than that, I enjoyed it quite a bit. Okay, now let's talk about my two favorite translated works for this year. This is the Daligit Dream Department Store by Maya Lee, and this is the Amber Glow Candy Store by Hiyoko Kurishi. I think I'm hoping that pronouncing that right. I read this one earlier this year and really enjoyed it. I actually picked up the sequel because I think this came out last year. This essentially is about a girl who goes to work at a department store, but they're all based on dreams. So each floor has a different like dream sector, dream focus, and each of the stories within this book, which I've learned is pretty common with a lot of translated, I think this is Korean or Japanese. Korean. It's a #1 Korean bestseller. A lot of Asian works tend to follow the similar pattern of following a different set of characters throughout the story where each chapter is their specific story. And I thought this was really cute. I actually really liked this one. I thought it was really fun to follow. The premise of it is such a cool idea. People come through and the town essentially is a completely separate world, kind of in the land between sleep and awake, and so people will come here, nod and remember it obviously from when they wake up the next morning. And yeah, I just remember really liking this. Again, I read this early in the year, but definitely excited to read the sequel that just came out this year as well. Next, when I read more recently for the Halloween fall time, this is the Amber Glow the Amber Glow Candy Store. This one was really cute as well, again, in a similar fashion. This one follows a candy store in a mysterious alleyway of Japan and set similarly kind of behind, like in a place where people only can see it if they're really looking for it. And it's a candy store with every story specifically tailored to a specific circumstance or situation. I think I liked these kinds of stories, I'm realizing as I'm like thinking about it, because it kind of reminds me of stories I liked as a kid, like Mrs. Pigglewiggle. Does anyone remember Mrs. Pigglewiggle? If so, every chapter of those was a very similar idea where each chapter followed a specific person and a specific circumstance. And I think that's why I tend to like these kinds of stories. I'm realizing that now. But yeah, each of the different ones gives a different confectionery option where let's see, the teachings within the candy help realize things like being lovesick, being shy, being a first-time mom. And yeah, this one was really cute. It's from Japan, translated work. Really liked it. Okay, now let's talk about my favorite author for 2025 because I read a lot of her books. That was, well, not a lot. I read a good amount, more than I normally do for like a one-off author. I'm throwing things. And that was Kristin Hannah. I know I'm so late to the game on this. She is so beloved, but I finally, thanks to my book club of my friends and I, finally got around to reading 3 of her most famous books. and I think we might continue on with it. We all really enjoyed it. We started, of course, with her most famous, The Nightingale. This was so incredible. I don't cry at books anymore, apparently, because I'm heartless, but this was the first book that made me tear up reading it in a really, really, really long time. So yeah, if you don't know, this essentially follows two sisters going through World War II in France, I believe. Taking place in, yeah, two sisters, Germany occupied war-torn France. Yeah. This was a beautiful book. If you haven't had the chance to read this, I highly, 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 highly recommend it. It was so good. It's a heartbreaking book, but it's so incredible. And yeah, I would definitely say go into this with as little mystery as, or with as much mystery as possible, because I think it's just incredible. And I do believe, although my friends in book club might disagree with me, that Kristin Hannah does do a happy ending. So worry not, they all have good endings, including the next one that I read by her, which is The Great Alone. Oh no, sorry. We read The Women, but I'll get to that one because that was my next one. This was The Great Alone by Kristin Hannah. This was my, I think, tied for favorite of her three books that I read this year. This one essentially follows a girl in the 70s, Alaska, 1974, where Cora's family has moved to a very remote part of Alaska because her dad is essentially suffering from PTSD following the Vietnam War. This was actually a really good one to read, I think, after reading The Women, because this follows essentially pre, during, and after the Vietnam War, and this one follows essentially directly after. So I felt like these were good to read kind of in tandem, because I think I read these like a couple months apart. So really, really recommend both of these. This one was just an incredible story. I had no idea where she was gonna take the story. I really, really enjoyed it. And again, good news is it does have a happy ending. And then I did read The Women. This was probably my least favorite of hers, just given where the story ended up going. This essentially follows a woman called Frances, or Frankie, who goes to serve as a nurse in the Vietnam War. I really loved the first half of this book, not a movie, the book, because essentially it follows her time being in Vietnam, and then the back half of the book is more of her dealing with coming home and how the world responds to, you know, people coming back from the Vietnam War and what life looks like back then. So I thought this was really, really interesting to read. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really really knowledgeable to read about, because I don't know too much about the Vietnam War. But again, reading this before reading The Great Alone, highly, highly recommend, because it does give a little more context to that world and what it really looked like at the time. But yeah, definitely enjoyed this one as well. So yeah, I'm excited to read more Kristin Hannah. I think this one is definitely one we're going to continue reaching for at our book club, so excited to get into hers. Okay. Two authors that I've read so much from before and have loved. Let's talk about those. The first one is, of course, Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This was the newest book in the Hunger Games series following Haymitch. And when I tell you I am so excited for the movie, oh my gosh, this filled in so many gaps between Songbirds and Snakes and the Hunger Games trilogy. It just filled in so many missing pieces, gave so much backstory to Haymitch. Again, it's a Hunger Games book, so you know it's going to be devastating. A lot of people are going to die. But yeah, just again, the world that Suzanne Collins has built out with the Hunger Games is just incredible. It feels like a really satisfying conclusion to the world of this, but I wish she would write more. But there's really, I will say after reading this, there's not much more she could give. Like, I don't know what more she could do in this world, because this really tied up so many loose ends. It really fleshed things out. It filled in, like I said, a lot of the holes of the world. And yeah, I think it's just, yeah, I don't know what more she could do, but it was so good. I think this one was definitely one of my favorites. I think more than Songbirds and Snakes even. So if you guys haven't picked this up yet before the movie comes out, definitely give it a read. And the other one that I read this year that I really enjoyed was by T.J. Klune. This is Somewhere Beyond the Sea, the sequel to The House in the Cerulean Sea, which was one of my favorite books that I read within the last couple years. Was it last year? Might have even been last year. This was such a great book. This essentially picks up pretty much where the storyline leaves off in The House in the Cerulean Sea, following Arthur and, oh my gosh, what's his name? Linus Baker, who is his partner at the end of the first book, and the world and the children. Oh, they're so cute. I love how TJ Klune writes these characters. They're so adorable. They're so real. They're so relatable. They're so adorable. Like, the children in this are so cute. I will say this was a little bit more heavy-handed than I would have liked in just some of its messaging. I just kind of wanted to live back into this world though for a little bit longer, so it definitely gave me that feel of the found family dynamic, the adorable relationship between Arthur and Linus, and it was just really, really cute, and it definitely built out a lot of backstory for Arthur as well. But overall, I just really liked the family dynamic of this story. I love TJ Klune's writing. It's so effervescent. It's so good. So definitely recommend this. If you read The House in the Cerulean Sea and want to continue living in that world with those characters, I would definitely recommend this one. Okay, and a new to me author that I'm very excited to continue on in her series. This is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This one was one I listened to mostly on Audible or audiobook, and this essentially follows a woman named Emily Wilde, who is a Cambridge professor trying to become an expert, or is currently an expert, on fairies. She's a researcher writing the first encyclopedia of fairy lore. Very cute, really like this one. The dynamic between her and the main male in this book, her partner Wendell, who they become a dynamic throughout the story, is really cute. Just kind of falling into this book, I will say, took me a little bit, but by the end of it, I was so engrossed. I loved the dynamic of the characters. I loved her writing style. Emily's definitely more of like a scholarly, doesn't really get along well with people socially, and it was just really fun to see kind of how those relationships evolved over time. The fairy world of this is really well built out. It reminded me of some of the older like Spiderwick books that I used to read as a kid, like the same kind of like hidden secret world, looking through what are they called? The toadstools and the looking glass rocks and seeing stones, I think is what they're called. But yeah, I love a book like this. I think it's so fun to get wrapped up in this world, and I'm very excited to continue on in the series. And I'm going to pick up her new book coming out next year, which I think is one about a house with cats. Something about Agnes's House of Cats or something like that. But yeah, I definitely like her style, so I'm definitely going to keep reading more from her next year. Okay, and drumroll please, let's talk about my favorite book of 2025. Without question, it was The Phoenix Keeper by S.A. McLean. I knew as soon as I saw the premise for this that I was going to love this book, and I so badly wish it wasn't a standalone because I loved it so much. I wanted to read through it so slowly. I wanted to take my time with this book, which happens so rarely. I just really enjoyed this world. This essentially follows a girl named Isla. She is the Phoenix Keeper at a magical zoo, which just the concept of that alone was amazing. The world of the zoo that was built out with this, the creatures, the characters, the dynamic of the relationships, I was just obsessed with so much. The only gripe that I will say that I had with this book is it did get a little bit tiny repetitive, and it was a bit predictable at the end of how things were going to go, which was a bit unfortunate. I wish there was a little bit more to it than that, but again, it's a very cozy vibe. There's very low stakes involved. The relationship is adorable, and mainly the thing that I just loved about this was the world that was built out within this, of just the zoo, the dynamics, again, the characters, the creatures in the zoo were just so visceral, so likable, so cute, and yeah, I just really enjoyed this one. So if you guys are looking for something with a fun, magical zoo twist, which was right up my alley, I even looked it up afterwards of if there are other books that are kind of in this same vein for adults, or even YA. So if you guys know of any, please let me know, because this was like pretty much almost my perfect book, like 99.9% of my perfect book. Like, I wish I wrote this book. It was so good. So yeah, if you guys have any recommendations for magical zoo books for adults, please let me know, because Google really let me down. But yeah, other than that, those are my 10 favorite books for 2025. I hope you guys enjoyed and have had a great 2025. I'm so excited for 2026. It's going to be such a good year. I have really fun reading plans. I have a lot of just plans in general that you guys will see that will come along with. But yeah, other than that, let me know in the comments below what your favorite book was from 2025. I would love to know and chat with you guys down there. But if you did like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to see more of my face, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!